Hey Ram fam, it's time for Ramzone. Now to our host.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Ramzone. I'm Katie Scholl, and today with us we have head track and field coach, Tom Dibbern. Coach, how you doing today?
Well, thank you.
Good. So first I kind of want to start and kind of get to know you a little bit better. So what made you choose track and field?
Coming from a small town, I played every sport in high school, and I guess the one I had the most success in was track and field, and I was lucky enough to come to Angelo State to get to jump for Coach Reed and head coach David Noble, and so I just stuck with it after that.
So what other sports did you do? You said you kind of played all of them.
Everything that was offered, football, baseball, track. I even did a little bit of tennis, I think, if I remember right. It's been a long time, but about everything that was offered in high school.
Right. And so how did you specifically pick what you did in track?
I really cannot recall. That was a long time ago.
Right.
I think it just kind of found me. I think, process of elimination, you do everything, you finally figure out what you're best at.
Right. And so how do you think your time at ASU has kind of led you to be our head coach?
I love the place. I love San Angelo. I love Angelo State. And the people out here are the reason I'm here. I mean, I live here for the area and the people, and I mean, the job is the gravy on top of all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so this is your 10th year as our head coach. You started in 2016. Now it's 2026. At least that's kind of what I'd seen. I know you've been here a little bit longer. So how do you think you've grown kind of over this last decade?
I don't know. I guess experiences have, I was a young head coach when I took over here. I'd been an assistant for a long time, but the specific circumstances and everything that you get with being a head coach takes some time to experience and figure out. And I just feel like that I'm more prepared coming into the season to what the particular challenges are. And I think that experiences just kind of help me adapt to that.
Mm-hmm. And so who is your biggest inspiration or influence as a coach?
My stepfather Rob Lunderholm was a coach, and then James Reed, who was my jump coach, and then who I worked as his assistant when he was head track coach, and now he is athletic director, was a big influence in my path, I guess. A lot of what I do is very similar to what Coach Reed did, and we just try to continue what Coach Noble before him and Coach Reed had going whenever I took over.
Mm-hmm. Is there any kind of lessons or traditions that they have that you've tried to keep?
Yeah, we try to teach and coach track as a team sport, not an individual sport, and so we're trying to provide opportunities in every event group, and we're a program that's going to work with the kids and not just the superstars. We're going to develop kids that are walk-on types just as much as we're going to develop the kids that are your sure-enoughs.
Mm-hmm. And so you say you try to coach it more as team rather than individual. What goes into that?
You got to have kids, number one. You got to have, if you have one pole vaulter, it's hard for one pole vaulter to develop and be out there by himself every day. So I think it starts with recruiting depth in every event group, and from that depth comes competition, and with that competition, I think that's really how our kids develop and get better at a very high rate because of that.
And so you mentioned recruiting and kind of walk-ons. What do you have more of? Do you have more of kind of going out and recruiting people at meets, or do you have more just kind of coming in?
We're not able to recruit meets very often because the high school season is the same as our season. And so, we're checking results, and we're hitting the big meets like the state meet and things like that to find some kids there. But also it's networking. It's we have a lot of contacts around the world that help us, and so we recruit a lot of different ways. But we do still take walk-on type kids that are kids that we see that can help us in the future, and if we think they can help us, we're willing to invest time to get them. And we've had a lot of walk-on kids that have walked out of our program as All-Americans, so that's something we're certainly proud of.
And so what do you kind of look for when you are recruiting?
Character, number one. I mean, it's easy to see what a mark the kid has done, like how high they can jump or how fast they can run. But I mean, there's a lot of kids, and so we're going to recruit the type of kids that fit our needs of our program, and that's a high character kid that expects to be good in everything, life, academics, athletics. And if they don't check off all three of those boxes, then most of the time we're going to have to pass on them.
Right. And so you said kind of networking, I guess. Do you learn some of these character things from other coaches around?
No. I mean, we know what works for us, and we know what type of kid fits into our program, so we have a good idea of what we want.
Right. And so I guess what kind of, did you know that you always wanted to be a coach?
No, I came here to be a game warden, actually.
Really?
And yeah, the class load wasn't what I wanted. There was a lot more science than I wanted to participate in, so I kind of, about my sophomore year, moved over to my second choice, and that was going to be coaching. And I didn't know if I wanted to be a high school coach and coach all the events, because my stepdad was a basketball, football coach, but I went that direction, and then just kind of through the years, I decided I wanted to stick with track and at the college level.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I know a lot of people either know that this is what they wanted to do, or it's kind of just a random, I couldn't be without the sport, and so they wanted to kind of go back to it. So I was kind of curious on your take. Game warden. Do you think about that often, and what it would have been like with that?
Not really.
No.
No, I kind of just go with where I am right now, and this is where I am, and so this is what I think about.
Right. And so your team has had, dozens of All-Americans between just walk-ons and people you've recruited. So what's been the key to kind of sustaining that level of success in this program?
I think success breeds success, and we've got a great culture and we've got a great tradition, and we just got to keep plugging in the kids that fit into what we do and do what we do well. And being here as long as I've been here, since '96, and in some capacity, I know what fits here. I know what works at the Division II level. I know what works in the Lone Star Conference, and I know what type of kid fits into what we're trying to accomplish. And so, being in Texas, there's more than enough athletes to go around, and so we're able to pick the type of kid that fits us.
Awesome. So how do you think keep your athletes motivated throughout these seasons? It's hot in Texas, and some may not be as used to that.
Well, if we're recruiting the right type of kids, they're going to stay intrinsically motivated. And, we're there to, we provide a guidance system, I guess, but the kids that we recruit, they know what they want. They know what they want to get, and we just provide them with the facilities and the plan to get to where they want to be.
So will you kind of walk us through just like a typical kind of meet week during season, what y'all do? Because I kind of was looking at it. Most of y'all's meets last around 3 days, so it's a lot longer than just normal, just one game a week or 2 games a week.
Sure. Well, I mean, actually, we're on a 3-day meet here at Angelo because we have a multi-event, a heptathlon and a decathlon, and most meets are just 1 day. So the heptathlon and the decathlon, which go on this Thursday and Friday, they're an opportunity for those multi-event kids, the heptathletes and decathletes, to get one in during the season before the conference meet, because they don't get to do that every week, because you can't do a 10-event competition every week and not break down. So they actually get like one during the regular season, and then they get the conference meet and they get the national meet. But during a regular meet, which is most every other week, it's either a Friday, Saturday, or just a Saturday meet. And for us during the week, we're typically, if we're traveling, we're typically doing recovery type stuff on Monday, and then we're getting back into it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and going to the meet on Saturday.
And so when you say getting back into it, kind of what does that mean?
Oh, well, we got to do something to get the blood flowing. We got to get something to get some hormones moving, to get some recovery stimulated. And so, we'll just do some sort of a run-and recovery circuit or a med ball type circuit. Then we'll go to the weight room, and then usually by Tuesday we're ready to go back full tilt.
And so, do y'all have any sort of team dinner, team bonding things y'all do during the week during season?
Nah, team bonding is the meat for us. I mean,
Yeah.
the kids compete for each other, and if you got kids that are going after the common goal, and the common goal for us is a conference championship, I think, those bonds, they happen naturally, and I don't think you have to create them. That's my opinion. That's not how a lot of people see it, but that's how I see it. And I think through the recruiting process, if we pick the right type of kids that fit into our culture, the bonds are going to happen, and we don't have to artificially try to create bonds, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it does. So for just other kind of goals in these people's lives, a lot of these people aren't going to continue to be kind of track for the rest of their life. How do you kind of instill what they're going to do afterwards?
Well, that's a given for 99% of them. They're not going to be career athletes, and so from day one, we just tell them you're here to be a student first. You're here to get your degree, to get your job, so you can pick your job, and athletics it's a vehicle to help you get through your class schedule, and it's a vehicle to help your college experience be more enjoyable. But it's just that. I mean, it's secondary to being a student.
Right. What kind of leadership qualities do you try to put into these students, and how do you do it?
I try to lead by example. I'm not a big talker as far as rah type of guy. It's if it goes down to the small things like cleaning the bus up when you get home from a track meet. If I'm first one off the bus, picking up a water cooler and taking it down there, then people are smart. People figure out what you expect, and the ones that want to be there are gonna follow in line there.
So do you have a favorite event that you have to coach?
Yeah, it's kind of depending on where we're good, I guess. I've coached every single event group in my career. The multi-events are fun because you get a little bit of everything. A decathlon has sprinting, throwing, jumping, and it even has a distance event in it. So I like the multis because you get a little bit of everything, but I really don't particularly have any one event that I like better. I'm not the throws coach, but I enjoy watching our hammer throwers throw just as much as I enjoy watching our sprinters sprint. So I really don't, long story short.
That's okay. For your assistant coaches, how often and how much do you think that they help with this program?
They help every aspect of it. There's no way that one person could lead 85 people and do the day-to-day duties it takes to keep the program running the way it needs to. And so Coach Lumpkins and Coach Petros, and then all of our student coaches and everything do a great job. And we couldn't do what we do without them.
What do you think the most challenging event is?
That's hard to answer because each event has its own challenges. There's some events that are more technically challenged. There's some events that are more dynamic on your body that if you're not doing them correct, you're going to tear yourself up. There's some endurance events that challenge the mind and the aerobic system. So, I think each event has its own set of challenges, and it's, if you want one that's probably as hard on the body and the mind and everything else as far as learning it, triple jump is one of them. It's very technical. It's very hard on the body because every time you strike the ground, it's like, I think they said 9 to 10 times your body weight that you're putting into your legs and everything. So triple jump's pretty difficult, but every one of them has their own set of challenges for sure.
Right. Which one do you think might be the most challenging to coach? Not necessarily physicality, but just in general.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the technical events, which pole vault is very difficult because it's a very technical event. Triple jump's difficult. Hammer throws difficult. if you're going to go to the distances, steeplechase is very technical. So, the more technical the event is, the more difficult it is to coach, because you just have more areas that you have to be good at.
Right. Can you explain a little bit more kind of what you mean by technical?
Well, technical, it's so, if you're a sprinter, you got to have good sprinting technique. But if you're a triple jumper, then not only do you have to have good sprint mechanics to get down the runway, you have to have good takeoff mechanics, you have to have good landing mechanics, and everything. So it's a more technical event, meaning it's more difficult, more complex, and there's more aspects that have to be mastered before you can be good at the whole thing.
Right. How do you evaluate kind of this season so far? What would you kind of describe this season going like?
It's gone well. We're an extremely young team. I mean, maybe from a men and women combined standpoint, we're probably as young as we've been in maybe ever in my 12 years of head coaching. But we got a lot of talent too, and we're still trying to grow in a lot of areas, and so probably say right now we're not as good and from a conference standpoint as we were last year, but from a national standpoint, our good guys are really, really good. And that's why we were fourth at the national championships, is because we had a group that wasn't very large that made it to the national meet, but they got there and they did what they needed to do to get all the points that we could possibly get. And so, we're young, but we're talented. And we got a lot of growth from a conference standpoint, meaning across the team, all event areas. But I like where we are. I like what we can be in the future. And I think if we can keep this freshman group together for 3 or 4 years, we're going to be very, very good.
And so do you think that's kind of one of your benefits of having a younger team, is being able to kind of grow them?
Yeah, but it's also a negative in today's landscape, because in college athletics, it's more and more difficult to keep your team together for 4 years. You've got, when they get good, you got people offering them a lot more opportunities financially than they had before. And there's a transfer portal now, and there's no transfer limitations like there used to be. We don't lose a lot of kids through the transfer portal, and we're able to keep our group together as well as anybody, I think, but that's still a challenge. And if you can get your kids from freshmen to seniors and you maintain 95% of them, you're going to be really good as a fourth year group.
So as you kind of approach the conference and the national meets, what are your main priorities kind of going into them?
Our priorities are always to get better. If we're developing kids and we're getting better, then the rest will take care of itself. If we're in the same place we are in May that we are now in March, then we're not doing our job as coaches, and we're not going to score as well as we need to at the conference and national meet. So if we're developing our kids and we're getting better, it's a simple answer, but it is the answer. You got to be getting better. You got to be growing on every failure every week.
And so I know track isn't necessarily the same as a lot of other sports and stuff, and like kind of other teams. So do y'all watch film or kind of look at other teams when you're preparing for meets?
No, in tracks you control yourself. You control what you can control in sports, and in sports, like you said, basketball, you influence how the other team runs their offense or things like that. In our sport, we control what goes on between our lane, and we control what goes on in the ring when we're up with the shot put in our hand, and that's all we can really control. And so ours is more focused on ourselves, and you focus on yourselves in the other sports, but we focus on controlling what we can control. And if we do that to the best of our abilities, then we're going to beat other teams because we're going to be more prepared.
Right. How big of a mental game do you think track is?
I think the mental part of it's as big in track and field as it is in any, if not more, because you can be effective in other sports at sub 100%. But if you run 90% of a 10 flat 100 meter dash, you're running 11 flat, and that's slow. So if you're not performing at your max capability in track, you're not going to be effective. And so the mental aspect has to be part of that.
So how do you kind of coach this mental?
Well, that's what the season's for. You start in those early season meets, and then, I mean, when you start at those early season meets, you treat them like practice, and you see how the athletes respond to competition. And from an individual standpoint, you just take notes and you figure out what each individual needs to do better. And our event group coaches, it's their job to notice what we need to work on, and you just develop through the season just like you develop the physical piece.
Right. And so kind of towards the beginning of our conversation, you talked about, those weeks, and you kind of have, more of a kind of recovery day. So how do you balance this intense training of, being ready, preparing, getting better, and then also the recovery so people aren't hurting?
Well, you gotta plan your season from before August starts, and you got to break it up into blocks, and you got to figure out in each 4-week block what you're trying to accomplish. And within those blocks, there's got to be a certain build and then a certain deload. And if that's not happening throughout the season, and your intensity and your volume isn't crossing at the right time, which is somewhere around April, then you're not going to peak at the right time. And for us, if we're not good on the day of the conference meet, then what good is the rest of the season? Because that's the one meet that we're competing for a conference championship. We don't get to have a bad conference meet and then come back the next week and play somebody else again. I mean, we're trying to be good that first weekend in May from a conference standpoint, and that third weekend in May for a national championship standpoint. So there's a lot of planning and preparation, and you've got to program your season. You can't just do things blindly.
How big do you kind of preach these conference meets to your students?
It's everything for us. I mean, we're here to represent Angelo State, and the conference is a big part. I mean, right now we're a better national team than we are a conference team, and I mean, either one of those two meets, you're making your university look good. So that's where it is. It's the conference meet and the national meet, and if we can be successful in those two, then it's a successful season.
Right. And so you said you're more of a national team rather than conference. Kind of how do you build up to get better to be conference?
I mean, you just got to have more depth, and you got to have more experience. And so the majority of your team is not going to go to the national meet. Majority of your team's last meet is going to be the conference meet. So, we just got to develop those younger kids and get to where we're scoring more points at the conference level. You got a lot of teams in track and field that are either conference or national teams, and we try to be both. And, we're going to be. I mean, we're not a bad conference team. We're better at nationals right now.
Right. So what's one thing that fans don't necessarily see that kind of goes on behind the scenes?
I don't know.
That's okay.
I don't know what. I mean, it's
kind of one of those, I guess, what do you think your students do super well that doesn't necessarily always show up on the score sheets or on, kind of as everybody is easily seen?
I mean, the culture of our team is awesome. You're not going to find a better group of 80 kids anywhere assembled on a team, and I'll put our kids up against anybody from a culture, from a winner standpoint. Every one of our kids would be kids that I would be proud to babysit my kids if I had kids, and things like that. So that's the thing that our staff is proud of, is we got kids that are very good athletes and they perform very well, but they're also good human beings. And so I guess that would be the thing that we would like more people to know.
Right. How big, I know obviously, we talked about earlier, student kind of comes before athlete. Some of other coaches I've kind of spoken to have different weekly check-ins academically. What do y'all kind of do for your academics with your students? Anything?
Recruit good student athletes. I don't do that stuff. I mean, each sport is different, and football's different than track. Track's different than basketball, and you got to do different things within your sport because it's just a completely different group of kids. And with us, I just don't, because just never have. And we do a study hall that is once a week. They have to have 3 hours, 5 hours, or 7 hours. But other than that, the academics, we kind of let it take care of itself. But I mean, that's not to say we're better than football or better. That's not. We just don't do it the same way they do it,
Right.
and everything. And you know, if they're not taking care of business, then they're not going to be with us very long because they're not going to be eligible. And
Right.
that's the way I handle it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And so will you kind of let us know a little bit about this upcoming meet that we have? I think it's here at home, correct? It's the decathlon you were kind of talking about?
David Noble Relays.
Yes, sir. So will you kind of let us know a little bit about that?
Well, Thursday and Friday is the multi-event, which is for the women, a heptathlon, which is 7 events over 2 days. The decathlon is 10 events over 2 days for the guys. So they'll go Thursday and Friday. And then we have some events that start Friday night, some open events with the shot put and the triple jump. And then we have a couple distance events, the steeplechase and the 10K. And then we have prelims Saturday for all the other events that start at 12:30. And the field events run from 12:30 through the end of the day. And our running finals are 5:10 to about 8 o'clock. So it's going to be a full 3 days. And you know, anytime you get out there Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, you'll get some action. But the majority of everything is going to take place about 5 o'clock on Saturday.
Well, Coach, do you have anything else you'd kind of like to add about this year's team or about just ASU track and field in general?
No, I think you've covered it all.
I think so. Well, Coach, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. And we will see y'all next week on Ramzone. Thank you.